Welcome, NFL football fans. It's that time again. Time for another edition of NFL Football Talk. This is an Inside Sports production. I'm your host, Charles E. Smith Jr. Here we are in the 2015 season, all the way up to Week 10. Every team has played at least 8 games. That's halfway through the 16-game season. So we're going to go ahead and give you kind of a mid-season report. But I can't do that alone. So I need someone I can really trust to help me out with this and get everything done. So, ladies and gentlemen, many of you already follow him on Twitter at Chris L. Sports. I present to you one of the best sports analysts in the business today from somewhere in an undisclosed location in Southern California, Chris Lardieri. Chris, what's happening, man?
Charles, great to be back again. Thank you for another tremendous introduction. And today's Veterans Day, and don't want to make you too bashful or anything, but want to thank you as a veteran for your service to our country. The NFL likes wearing camouflage gear and headsets. I won't go that far, but I will wish you a happy Veterans Day.
All righty. I couldn't work camouflage headsets into the budget this year, but maybe next year. But, I'd kind of feel like it's an interesting thing because I sort of feel like tooting my own horn if I do that, but I like to congratulate other fellow vets on it, but, I do thank you for the acknowledgement.
My pleasure, and, there's a lot of self-promotion out there, so I figure I'll take the hit for you.
All right, I appreciate it. So, hey, Week 9 was fantastic. Antonio Brown of the Steelers setting new team records, 17 catches, 284 yards as they took down the Oakland Raiders. A big matchup there. The Dallas Cowboys lost again. Philadelphia takes them down, but Philadelphia, it did come at a big price. Linebacker Jordan Hicks, sensational rookie linebacker. He's out with a torn pec, and that wasn't all. Also, we had Dion Lewis, running back for the New England Patriots. He's gone with a torn ACL. Henry Anderson, defensive tackle for the Colts, knee injury, done for the season. And then Big Ben Roethlisberger just came back, his second game back from the knee injury of his left knee. Now he's got a left foot sprain, and he is he's going to miss this week and maybe one more game. We'll see. And then, of course, Stedman Bailey. We got to have one knucklehead in the bunch, so he's gone for 4 games. The Rams wide receiver, due to violating the league's substance abuse policy, and they picked up Wes Welker to replace him. What do you think about Wes coming to help out the Rams and give Nick Foles another target that he can overthrow?
Well, I think it's interesting because the Giants, who don't have a heck of a lot of wide receiver depth, passed on Welker, I'm assuming, due to the concussion fears. But it's bad when the Rams are hiring him, and I think he's probably still got some gas left in the tank. But like I said, the problem is concussion. Every week it seems like we're starting with injuries. I think the most interesting one, and I guess he wasn't faking it, and the Colts weren't hiding it from the injury report, but lacerated kidney, Andrew Luck. I mean, a rough season gets even worse for them.
Yeah, that's true. So he's going to be gone 2 to 6 weeks, and then, it's easy to just leave some of them out, but also Keenan Allen, one of Phillip Rivers' favorite targets there in San Diego. He's done, same thing, lacerated kidney. That's a bad thing. I've never heard of so many kidney injuries. And then Aqib Talib, defensive back for the Denver Broncos, suspended for 1 game because of the stupidest eye-gouging penalty at center field that I think I've ever seen in the history of the NFL. You saw that play? Unconscionable.
Total bozo move. I mean, I don't understand it. Standing there in front of the refs with the cameras on them and doing it, I don't get it. I mean, we talked Monday night even about Stevie Johnson throwing his little tantrum and getting a delay of game penalty. When will these guys learn? I don't get it, especially when there's so many cameras covering NFL games nowadays and everything seems to be replayed. It just astounds me.
Yeah, so, we talked about we're going to do the mid-season report here. So Adrian Peterson, the Vikings, rolling along at 6-2. Peterson back in form, even though he's had a little bit of fumbleitis this year, but still leading the league in rushing so far. And sensational rookie Stephon Diggs there, another target for their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater. So what do you think, that NFC North, which seemed to be, that's a division the Packers have owned for how long now? But it looks like that's going to be an interesting matchup. They're both at 6-2 now on the year, and they still have to play each other twice. So Packers or Vikings battling it out, and the Packers seem to be losing some steam right now too.
Yeah, they definitely do. Aaron Rodgers isn't as perfect as everyone thought he was. The offensive line's got some major holes in it, and now Eddie Lacy delegated the second string in favor of James Stark. So there's some issues there in Green Bay. I know some people like to attribute it to the change in play calling, but definitely a rough patch here. And Charles, the Vikings, one of our dark horse teams in the NFC this year. I know we're only halfway through, but maybe we could pat ourselves on the back with one hand.
Yeah, we could. And from what I understand, Eddie Lacy has gone Ron Dane, and he's about 25 pounds overweight now. So I don't know. We'll see. You'd think the guys would have the discipline. This is their whole career. They get paid a lot of money. You wouldn't think dropping 20 pounds would be a huge demand for the team to make, but I don't know. He can't seem to do it.
Yeah, especially with all the tools they have at their disposal and meals cooked for them and top-of-the-line gym equipment. Be a lot harder for you and I to do that, but not Eddie Lacy.
I'll tell you what, I could do that very easily 30 years ago, which would make me about the age of Eddie Lacy right now, So.
Yeah, I didn't mean to expose your age or to insinuate that you're overweight, just that the older we get, the harder it is to shed those lbs.
Well, they say the camera adds, 25 pounds, so if I look a little chunky on camera here, I'm not. I'm really actually lean and mean and very svelte.
Yeah, you're just, you know what? I think you're just inflamed with all your NFL knowledge. It just comes across like that on the camera.
Yeah, that's true. That's how it goes. So also, something we've been talking about, not the stadium issue in L.A., which I guess is heating up. Will it be Carson? Will it be Inglewood? Both cities think they've got something. The CEO of Disney, I guess, is now on board, Paul Iger, who is behind the Carson project. Then you got Stan Kroenke, who owns the Rams, and he's behind the Inglewood project. So I guess they're wanting to put the Chargers and or the Raiders in Carson versus the Rams going to Inglewood. I think that's what it is. But there's been no talk of all three teams coming. Do you know anything else?
No, and I don't think that. Yeah, the other thing is the respective teams went before the NFL today on Park Avenue in New York to present kind of an update on where they stand. And ironically, the San Diego contingent is optimistic, but yet at the same time, the Chargers lawyer is talking about Iger being in charge of Carson. And, to digress for a second, how can you run one of the biggest entertainment and media conglomerates in the world and then also run a football stadium? I'll never understand that. But anyway, it's great. Just a complete PR and spin and who knows what to believe. And, I remember, as I'm sure you do, back in the late 90s when inevitably the Texans got their team in Houston. Everyone thought there was going to be a stadium in Carson, and Mike Ovitt, Tom Cruise, and all these Hollywood heavy hitters are behind it. And what did we get? Nothing, an empty lot for another 15-plus years. So hate to sound cynical, but I think it's a lot of bluffing, it's a lot of spin, and no one knows what's going to happen. But as we've said consistently on this show, until that shovel goes into the ground,
Yeah, well, they had the mayor of Inglewood on, and I guess he's saying they're ready to start construction in December. I mean, I really can't see that happening, but the NFL says they want to do it right this time. But I guess what they mean by doing it right is they don't want to have an owner in town who killed her husband and took control of the team. Is that what they're trying to say?
I'll tell you what it is, Charles. They've created this charade, and it's a good point, by the way, before I go off on my latest rant. But they want to do it right, but yet they've created this charade. It almost seems like bad reality television. But the bottom line is this. I heard one report that the relocation fee could be somewhere in the neighborhood of just south of $1 billion. And at the end of the day, that's Goodell's MO, and that's what it boils down to. Who can pay the most, and who can get the stadium built, and who can have Super Bowls there where a bunch of corporate bigwigs go to the game and maybe 10,000 fans show up in either corner of the end zone.
Yeah, well, we'll see. So let's go ahead and break down a little bit mid-season. I mean, the AFC, obviously you'd have to look at New England perfect at 8-0, also the Cincinnati Bengals perfect at 8-0, but beneath that, I mean, what do you think? The Steelers they've got some injury problems going there. The Jets, they're playing strong at 5-3. I don't think there's anyone who really thinks Denver can make a run, especially they finally lost a game and Manning throwing interceptions every single game now. So what do you think beneath the Patriots and the Bengals? Is there another team that you think has emerged as kind of a contender there?
I don't, actually, and we'll say this till we're blue in the face as long as these teams stay healthy. But that said, I think the wild card race at the very least may be interesting. The Raiders gave up about 6,000 yards on Sunday to the Steelers, but if they could get their defense figured out, got some favorable matchups coming up. That's one team you can watch out for. And look at the Jets. Todd Bowles has turned things around. The schedules helped them. They did play the Patriots tough once, but who knows? Maybe one of these teams gets on a roll late in December, and we all know how the Bengals do in January, pulls a surprise in Cincinnati. But with Denver, too, I know Peyton's not playing well, but at the very least, if they get a home game, whether that tough D and Peyton, I guess, becoming a game manager, they could conceivably win a game or two and get to the championship. So I won't rule anything out yet, especially with the Broncos. I'm definitely skeptical of that team. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender, but you just don't know. It's so early still, halfway through the season, and who comes back, who stays healthy, what quarterback gets hot. It's just almost like you got to wait for that calendar to turn to month 12 before we start paying attention nowadays.
Yeah, that's true. And then if we hop over to the NFC, obviously Carolina undefeated at 8-0, and then you got these. We talked about Green Bay and Minnesota at 6-2. Also Arizona at 6-2, and Arizona, I think they're the third highest scoring team in the league now. Offense was always a problem, so it seems like maybe if Arizona, if they stay healthy on offense, they might be the team to beat over there in the NFC. But, Carolina's grown by leaps and bounds, too.
Yeah, definitely. And who would have thought that really bad first-round playoff game last year could be a potential preview of this year's NFC Championship? Not to get ahead of myself, but I really love the way Carolina defense plays. And, next time you hear a quarterback or the Phillip Rivers defenders talk about how he's got no one to throw to because of injuries, well, I submit to you Cam Newton, because other than Ted Ginn Jr. and Jericho Cotchery, the Jets retreat, they got a bunch of guys I don't know, plus Greg Olson, a good tight end, and they're undefeated. So Jonathan Stewart seemed to be revived. It's a team to watch out for, especially if that D just continues shutting guys down. And my favorite underrated player in the NFL, Luke Kuechly, they can play left and right over the middle, so that's one to watch out for. And then the first big Cardinals-Seahawks matchup is this Sunday night. The Cardinals win that one, they're going to be in the driver's seat in the West.
Absolutely, and the Cardinals 6-2, Seahawks 4-4. Seahawks, they're going to want that game badly, and the Seahawks, they got some tough tests coming up, but they do have their next 3 games are going to be at home in Seattle with the 12th man behind them. And the other thing is about when you talk about Phillip Rivers, I think the apologists, it's really interesting the way that people just kind of see things, see what they want to see. They say Rivers doesn't have anyone to throw to, yet he leads the league with over 3,000 passing yards midway through the season. So he has no one to throw to when he needs to throw to them, or what? How does that work?
I guess when he overthrows them, then he has no one to throw to, or when they're driving and he can't punch the ball in the end zone, no one was open because his good open receivers were hurt. I don't know, but as you mentioned, I said this a few weeks ago, passing, to make a baseball analogy, he's the Craig Biggio of the NFL. Craig Biggio is a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to debate that here. This is a football show, but predominantly a singles and doubles hitter who never won a World Series and compiled some nice stats, got 3,000 hits, and I think that's what we're seeing here with Rivers. And he got this huge contract extension, and I don't know. I mean, everyone loves to rip on Eli and talk about how brittle Roethlisberger is. So those are 2 guys right there that I would take in a heartbeat over Phillip Rivers, and not necessarily because their stats are the greatest, but they're leaders. They show up in the clutch, and they've won multiple rings.
And I'm still, we don't want to make this the Phillip Rivers hour, but I'm still trying to figure out how against Green Bay, he throws for 500 yards, and that only equates to 20 points on the scoreboard. They basically went up and down the field 5 times during the whole game and got 20 points out of that. How does that... I seriously, I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't. It does not... There is no mathematical equation that makes that compute.
Well, Charles, we live in a fantasy football world, and I guess that's where Phillip Rivers' value is.
All righty. Okay, and then, of course, we're going to be breaking down that big game. It's going to be in our Picks of the Week segment. But your New York Giants, they're at 5-4, in control somewhat of the NFC East, but they got the Patriots coming to town, and that's something we'll get to talk about here in just a moment. But, what about this? We talked about fantasy football, DraftKings, FanDuel, a cease and desist letter from the Attorney General of New York was sent to them. So, to cease their not gambling operation, right? That's what it is. So this will be, if they ban it there, I think this will be the 7th state that has banned it now.
Yeah, and I know those nice guys sitting there around the table watching football beg to differ, but you and I were on this from day one. It is gambling. It is, in some aspects, insider trading, and in my humble opinion, kudos to the Attorney General of New York for doing that. I'm surprised that California and other states didn't get on board sooner, but we know how that goes. They'll probably follow suit. And both FanDuel and DraftKings have a lot of answering to do because, hey, horse racing's regulated. Why not this daily fantasy football?
Yeah, exactly. And then I think one of the bad things is when I watch shows now, and it wasn't even football, but I see the announcers as they're doing the sport, and then you have a break, you have the time between periods, and they're talking about how they set their fantasy lineup that day. And then they say you can too at DraftKings or FanDuel or whatever. So here you got these guys pretending they're interested just so they can drag more people into the whole not gambling thing that is fantasy sports.
I love the hypocrisy, and you know what? This gives me even more respect for one Al Michaels, who loves to make subtle gambling references, talk about the over-under and so forth. I guess basically he can get on the air at some point, throw out an ad for a Vegas sports book or Louis the Neck, his bookie, or whoever he's gambling with these days. But yeah, it's oh so slimy. And yet again, the NFL's in bed with these guys, but deny the existence of any sort of gambling. But with Charles, as long as the injury reports are accurate, I guess all is well.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, and just about to get into the picks of the week. So last week, I'm trailing at the midway mark. I was 20-20. I went 4-1 last week. Mr. Lardieri went 3-2. The only game we differed on was the Pittsburgh and Oakland game. But other than that, we both had a pretty good week. Yeah,
other than me jumping on the Raiders bandwagon this week, they decided to stop playing defense and let Antonio Brown run wild, right?
Okay, so now I'm 24-21 on the year. Chris, you still have the 2-game lead. You're at 26-19 as we go ahead and get into this week's games. Now, the first one, this is the final game that the Cowboys will have. They got a bye, and then Tony Romo will be back in a couple of weeks. Dallas in Tampa Bay to play the Buccaneers. Do the Cowboys finally win a game without Tony Romo when they go into Florida and take on Jameis Winston and his Buccaneers? Well, what do you think?
No, they won't. The streak will continue. And look, even though I'm a Giants fan, it's a game they were lucky to win. Jameis Winston actually played pretty well. He's a victim of a lot of drops. Their defense kind of folded down the stretch, left one too many receivers open. And Matt Castle is even more awful with each passing week. Just loves to throw key interceptions at the most opportune times. And the Dallas D just keeps getting banged up and giving up the big play. And the way Winston's improving every week, I think Tampa wins this game.
Okay. Well, I got to go with you on that too. And just a side note, I like the way that, and Jameis Winston, I know a lot of people were against him when everything started because of the history, the crab legs and everything else. And I honestly was not really in his corner. But when I look at him and looking objectively, you got to like the way he has developed into an NFL quarterback this year. He's learning all the little things each game, and you can kind of see the improvement game to game. So I like Jameis Winston and his Tampa Bay Buccaneers to send the Cowboys to, I think this will be a 7th straight loss since Romo went out. And also remember linebacker Sean Lee of the Cowboys. He went out of the last game against Philadelphia. He went out with a concussion. And so we don't know if he's going to be playing this week or not. So, yeah, tough times for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, and he's a key player there in the middle. When he goes, so goes their defense.
All righty. And then Miami Dolphins. That was another game we both kind of thought they'd beat Buffalo last week. They did not. Miami Dolphins in Philadelphia to play those Eagles. Eagles sitting at 4-4 in the NFC East. Definitely players in that division. But I don't know. The Dolphins are just too helter-skelter here. And I just have trouble picking their games. I really try to separate and I don't think it's because that's my favorite team. But Miami in Philadelphia, I'm going to have to go with, looking at the division races and the desperation factor, I'm going to go with the Eagles in this game to beat Miami, even though the Eagles will be without linebacker Jordan Hicks. But I'm going to go with Philadelphia.
I'm going to have to agree with you. These are two teams that are clearly enigmas, but I don't like what I'm seeing from the Dolphins, especially on defense. With Wake out, it's clear teams are just keying on Sue, and he hasn't really had a good first year in Miami to begin with. And top of that, look, I don't. At the end of the day, I'd probably like Tannehill over Bradford, but I guess Bradford makes the short passes when he needs to, and the fact that both Murray and Matthews are warming up running the ball, I think that's a nice two-headed monster. They'll control the clock and eke out a win against the Dolphins. And, a game that, honestly, it's hard to pick. Who knows which team will show up on each side.
Right. And then next game, now we're going to get into the meat of the picks here. So, battle of young quarterbacks. Teddy Bridgewater, I believe he passed concussion protocol. I'm 99% sure he's going to be starting against the Raiders in Oakland this week. So, Teddy Bridgewater and Adrian Peterson on one side of the ball. Dynamic offense, and then in Oakland to face Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders. So what do you think about this game?
I think the Vikings' first trip to the Bay Area was a debacle, but it won't be this time. Assuming Bridgewater plays, I'm going to trust your injury report, unlike the NFL's. I'm going to go with them. And, Bridgewater is kind of conservative. Doesn't take as many chances in the first, 3/4 of a game, it seems. When push comes to shove and his team's down or he needs a drive, it's almost like the Eli factor. He stops thinking and he starts playing, and I like what I see there. Adrian Peterson's back to his old form, running the ball, and with the way the Raiders D played last week, I think they're having a hard time defending both the run and the pass. I think it'll be a good game by no means, so I think it'll be a blowout. I really like the way Derek Carr's playing. Amari Cooper's having a Rookie of the Year type season, so looking forward to watching this game, but I'm going to go with the Vikings. They got a lot of momentum. And
I guess the only question is, does Charles Woodson get his 6th pick this season? I think Bridgewater being the young quarterback, I think Woodson may be able to bait him into one bad throw. I do think Woodson to get a pick this week, but I'm going to go with the Minnesota Vikings. And they were talking about that with Bridgewater, and I guess the coach even wants him to open up his game a little bit more before the fourth quarter, because he seems like, if you remember John Elway, when Elway was coached by Dan Reeves, and Reeves wouldn't really turn him loose until the fourth quarter. And Bridgewater seems to have been taking that upon himself to kind of play conservative and then go out and win the game. But I do like the way that he's developing, and I like the Vikings in this game.
You need to stop agreeing with me. It's too much.
Well, here we go. We'll see if we agree with this one or not. New England Patriots, undefeated 8-0 in in New Jersey, to play against the New York Giants. Giants at 5-4. Jason Pierre-Paul came back last week. I think limited action. I believe he had 2 solo tackles last week. But remember, it's New England missing left tackle Nate Solder. He was injured. They also lost at running back Dion Lewis, but still they've got LeGarrette Blount there. And then Giants offense is coming around. They still have some holes in that defense there, but you know what? I think something's happening there with the Giants, and I just have a feeling the Giants are going to win this game. I'm going to pick the Giants to, Eli to continue to be the bane of Tom Brady's existence and take down the Patriots this week in their undefeated season. I'm going to go Giants here.
Well, I hope you're right. As a fan, you're going to be wrong as a prognosticator. That said, I do think it'll be a typical Giants-Patriots game, and that will be close. Could be another one of these moral victory type games, like back in late '07 when the Giants went on their ultimate Super Bowl run to knock off the undefeated Pats. The reason I'm picking the Patriots, even though their offensive line is in shambles, really, other than Jason Pierre-Paul, I don't think anyone in the Giants can rush the passer. I think they'll do like they did against the Jets, a lot of quick drop, short passes, and the Giants' pass defense is atrocious. I think that's where they'll exploit them. I will always trust Belichick's scheming over Coughlin and his lack of clock management, etc. But I do think on the offensive side of the ball, I think they can challenge this Patriots D. Expect a good game, but Patriots eke this one out. But they will show that they are not invincible, and I predict they will not go winless this year. Bold prediction of the night.
Okay, all right. Now just to let you know, will not go undefeated.
I got you. Say winless, yeah. Sorry, I wish they would go winless, but that's another story.
And to commemorate your Giants, I am sipping out of my commemorative Giants Super Bowl mug this week. Super Bowl 21, 25, 42, and 46. So we'll see how they do this week, and I'm picking that upset. But were you in Vegas? Would you take the Giants and the points? What do you think?
Oh, Charles, I don't gamble. I would never gamble, but yes, I would.
Okay. So, the next game, another big one. Arizona Cardinals in Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Cardinals leading that NFC West division at 6-2. Seattle scrapping away at 4-4, and this is the first of 3 straight home games for them. What do you think? Cardinals in Seattle should be a fantastic shootout. What do you think? Who emerges victorious? You cannot call a tie either.
No, I would have done that with the Dolphins and the Eagles if that were the case. But I'm going to go with the Cardinals. I know the 12th man. They're on the road. The Seahawks supposedly are going to get everything in gear because they were 500 last year. But I don't believe in the Seahawks offense. I really like the way Bruce Arians is running his offense. Let's face it, Seattle's got some holes in that D, even in their defensive backfield. By no means do I think the Cardinals will blow them out. But at the end of the day, Russell Wilson's only got so much to work with. And I think the Cardinals are going to rush him and make him run. And he's really got no targets to throw to since Jimmy Graham ended up on the back of a milk carton missing. And I'll take the Cardinals. I'm believers, and I'm going to be consistent.
Well, I'm going to, I think it's about the desperation factor here. Playing at home, and I think with the bye week, they have to have figured out whatever is leaving those gaping holes in the defensive backfield there. So they need this game. They're playing at home. You got to go Seahawks here. I mean, they got beast mode in the backfield there on offense, defensive backfield with Richard Sherman. They're not going to let this game get away, homie. You got to go Seahawks at home, the 12th man, and it will tighten up that division race. Cardinals will be 6-3, Seahawks will be 5-4, and just be ready for chaos down the stretch. I'm going Seahawks.
You forget how the Panthers went in there and won, which I picked correctly, and you forget how the lowly Lions fumbled away a victory. So the 12s are not as invincible this year. That's what I'm sticking with.
Terrible. Greg Olson didn't have a man within 5 yards. Okay, all right, we're over that. Anyways, okay, everybody, remember the show is NFL Football Talk. I'm Charles E. Smith Jr. My partner there is Chris Lardieri. We're out of time now, so remember, you can follow Chris on Twitter at Chris L Sports. You can follow yours truly on Twitter at The Inside Sports. So every week right here, make sure you join us. We'll be back next time. Everybody enjoy the games, and thank you for watching.